Yesterday, at 10:38 a.m. local time, the ground began to unexpectedly shake back and forth in and near the world's third largest city by overall population, Dhaka. A magnitude 5.5 earthquake had just struck, and for the next 26 seconds, some partial or full wall collapses occurred, items fell off of shelves, and sections of some roofs completely collapsed. This simulation shows the strongest shaking Bangladesh experienced due to this earthquake being a bit unusual because the center of the country does not tend to experience frequent seismic events. I want to note that the peak ground shaking was reportedly only M5.5, so the only reason I have M5.7 labeled in this diagram is so you can attempt to identify what seismic intensity between a 6 and a 7 was like. While the damage the earthquake caused is still being accounted for, this is what the U.S. Geological Survey models suggest in terms of fatalities and economic damage, although I want to note that based on my own personal assessment, the actual figures are probably in this lower range. Nevertheless, at least 10 fatalities and 900 injuries occurred, primarily due to falling debris due to the collapse of certain walls and roofs. While to the best of my knowledge, no landslides occurred, this quake, which is the largest to strike within the country in 22 years, did cause another effect, liquefaction. While the actual extent of liquefaction is uncertain, this is the extent the U.S. Geological Survey model predicted. The problem is that much of Bangladesh, especially its capital city, are situated on top of sediments. Since these sediments can contain abundant groundwater that is largely held together by friction, an earthquake can cause this water to shift and then come out of the mixture, making the soil subside unevenly in sections. This can cause the ground to collapse underneath a building in a process known as liquefaction. As a result, there are reports of dozens of buildings having become newly tilted by this process, including some which are multi-story. While this is by no means an exhaustive list of what liquefaction looks like, here are a few examples of what damage or effects of it can look like. Sand boils or sand blows, ground cracks, manhole covers seemingly raised above the ground, and items or structures newly tilting or having partially sunk into the ground. While there are some people speculating that the quake which occurred originated on the nearby Madhupur Fault, which could one day theoretically produce a magnitude 7 range earthquake, the November 21, 2025 quake actually did not occur on that fault line. Instead, the moment tensor solution reveals that the earthquake involved the motion of a reverse fault that mostly had a strike to the north-northwest. And, despite no known specific faults being located near the epicenter, I may have found the fault source, marking a previously undiscovered fault line. I want to note that this could very well be me finding a quote-unquote pattern where one does not actually exist, but there seems to be a somewhat boring albeit 1 meter high fault scarp that perfectly aligns the solution of the recent earthquake. It is quite likely that if this unnamed fault does indeed exist, around 4 kilometers of it moved in yesterday's earthquake. While larger and more destructive earthquakes have occurred within the nation's modern borders in Bangladesh's recent history, such quakes are fairly uncommon. Magnitude 5 range quakes strike an average of once every 34.5 months. The last magnitude 6 range quake struck in 1930, the last magnitude 7 range quake struck in 1913, and the last magnitude 8 range quake struck in 1762. More severe earthquakes are theoretically possible in the future in Bangladesh, and especially due to the Madhupur Fault near Dhaka, which produced a magnitude 7.0 earthquake in 1885, I caution that in my opinion, some but not all regional structures are seemingly not particularly earthquake resistant. This can and should be changed to prevent a catastrophe for if and when the Madhupur fault line does produce another magnitude 7 range earthquake. Now, some aftershocks of the magnitude 5.5 earthquake are likely, but are most likely to all be smaller in magnitude and decrease in abundance as time from when the November 21st quake struck increases. As a final note, I would like to thank my new YouTube channel member, Deanna Moore, for supporting my work.